Picture this: every year, for 3 straight decades, one country built the equivalent of a city the size of Rome every 2 weeks. That's not science fiction, and it's not internet hype. It's China. And today I'm going to show you how the most brutal, fastest, most contradictory urbanization machine in human history actually works. Stick around until the end, because what looks like a success story hides entire empty cities, villages trapped inside skyscrapers, and a social experiment no other civilization has ever dared to attempt. Let's start with a number that breaks your brain. In 1978, China was a rural country. 8 out of 10 Chinese people lived in the countryside. Today, more than 900 million people live in cities. 900 million. That's all of Europe, plus the United States, plus some change. In 40 years, China moved more people from farms to cities than all of humanity had in the previous 200. And here's an even crazier stat. Between 2011 and 2013, China used more cement than the United States did in the entire 20th century. Read that again. 3 years versus 100 years. That's not urban growth. That's accelerated geology. So how do you pull off something like that? Because this didn't just happen. It wasn't the market, and it wasn't luck. It was a decision. And here's the secret that explains all of Chinese urbanism, the trick almost nobody tells you about. In China, urban land is never sold. Ever. All city land belongs to the state. What gets sold are use rights, for 40, 50, or 70 years. Why does that change everything? Because local governments discovered a gold mine. The mechanism works like this. The municipal government takes rural land, reclassifies it as urban, services it, and auctions the use rights to real estate developers for astronomical sums. With that money, it builds metro lines, highways, parks, airports. And that infrastructure makes the next piece of land worth even more. Rinse and repeat. Experts call it land-based finance. I call it the goose that lays concrete eggs. For years, in many Chinese cities, more than a third of municipal revenue came from selling land. In other words, Chinese cities don't grow because people arrive. They grow because growing is the business. And when building is the business, you build. Even if nobody's there to live in it. Hold that thought, because we're coming back to it. If you've ever seen photos of Chinese cities, you've probably noticed something: everything is massive. 10-lane avenues, 30-story towers repeated like an army, plazas big enough to hold an entire town. That has a name: the superblock. While a city block in Barcelona measures just over 100 meters, a Chinese superblock can be half a kilometer on each side. These are mega residential compounds, often gated, with thousands of identical apartments, designed and built all at once. Why? Pure efficiency. It's faster to approve, finance, and build a package of 10,000 homes than 1,000 small projects. The Chinese city isn't woven. It's stamped, like a 3D printer at territorial scale. The price? Lifeless streets, distances impossible to walk, and a monotony that Chinese planners themselves now recognize as a problem. In fact, in 2016 the central government officially ordered superblocks to be opened up in cities to return to small blocks. That's right, the country that invented the city machine now wants more human cities. But undoing concrete is a lot harder than pouring it. And now comes the most mind-blowing piece of the entire system, one you can't see in the photos. It's called Hukou. It's the household registration system. Every Chinese citizen has one, inherited from their parents, that labels them urban or rural and ties them to a specific city. And that piece of paper decides your life, which school your kids can attend, what healthcare you get, what pension you'll have. The result? Hundreds of millions of migrant workers live in cities where they officially don't exist. They build the skyscrapers of Shenzhen, they deliver the food in Shanghai, but their rights stayed behind in their home village. They are urban in body and rural on paper. That's the central paradox of the Chinese miracle. The most massive urbanization in history came with a built-in demographic handbrake. The state opened the city's door to labor, but not to full citizenship. A control mechanism no other country on Earth operates at this scale. Remember the goose that lays concrete eggs? Here comes the bill. When building is the business, you overbuild. And that's how the famous ghost cities were born, entire brand new districts with towers, museums, stadiums, and brightly lit avenues, and almost nobody living inside. The most famous case is Ordos Kangbashi, in Inner Mongolia, a city planned for hundreds of thousands of people that spent years as an empty stage set. Now, an important nuance, because the internet exaggerates, some of these ghost cities did eventually fill up. China plays the long game, build first, populate later. Sometimes it works. Other times, real estate giant Evergrande collapses under $300 billion of debt and leaves the skeleton of the model exposed for everyone to see. And while some districts were born empty, the exact opposite was happening in the heart of the metropolises, urban villages. Rural villages that were literally surrounded by the city. Because rural land falls under a different ownership regime, the city grew around them without swallowing them. The result is surreal, ultra-dense alleyways, buildings so close together they're called kissing buildings, embedded between glass towers. And that's exactly where the migrants without urban hukou live. Chinese informality isn't on the periphery. It's encapsulated in the center. And just when you thought you understood the model, China flips the script. For the past few years, the official discourse is no longer growth at all costs. The new magic phrase is ecological civilization. And it's not just propaganda, it's state policy written into the constitution. The star example is the sponge cities. After devastating floods, China launched a program for dozens of cities to absorb rainwater instead of fighting it, floodable parks, permeable pavements, urban wetlands. The same state machinery that used to stamp out superblocks now stamps out green infrastructure, at a speed that would take decades of paperwork in Europe. Does it work? Partially. Zhengzhou, a pilot sponge city, suffered a catastrophic flood in 2021. Nature doesn't always respect 5-year plans. But the direction of the shift is real, less speed and more quality, less expansion and more regeneration. The government itself declared the end of the era of large-scale urbanization. So, is Chinese urbanism a miracle or a warning? It's both. It's the system that lifted hundreds of millions of people out of rural poverty and built the most extensive metro network on the planet. And it's also the system that produced empty cities, colossal real estate debt, and two-tier citizenship. But here's the final thought, and it's the reason this matters even if you live 10,000 kilometers from Beijing. China proved that cities don't just happen. They are decided. Every 10-lane avenue, every superblock, every sponge park is a political decision cast in concrete. While the West spends 20 years debating a bike lane, China builds first and corrects later. Is that the model to follow? Probably not. Is it a mirror for our own urban paralysis? Absolutely. Next time you see a Chinese skyline, you'll know what's behind it. A machine for making cities that is now trying to learn something much harder: how to make a city.